Hi everybody, welcome back to Through the Bible in 5 Minutes. Today we explore the book of 1 Samuel. This book covers about a 130-year period in Israel's history, events that occurred about 3,000 years ago. You may recall from our previous videos that before this time, Israel had been ruled by a series of judges, men and women without any formal appointment, charismatic leaders who were raised up during different periods of history to cleanse the nation of idolatry and immorality, to unite them against their enemies, and protect them from all the forces that sought to destroy the nation. Now, many in Israel thought that their real problem throughout this time was that they didn't have a king like all the other nations. They were just a loose confederation of 12 tribes and easy pickings for the nations who sought to take their land and their resources. During this time, as our story begins in 1 Samuel, a terrible situation has developed. The Israelites are being pressured by the Israelites on the east, but a new threat has arisen on the west, the Ammonites, under the leadership of a man named Nahash, who has taken warfare brutality to a new low. He surrounded the city of Jabesh Gilead and told the people that if they don't surrender, he's going to take the city and kill every one of them. But if they do surrender, he's going to gouge out the right eye of every person in the city. It was a true Sophie's choice and the last straw for many in Israel. The leaders of the 12 tribes went to their spiritual leader Samuel and demanded that he anoint a king that would unite the whole nation and lead them into battle to save them, first of all, from Nahash, but from future enemies as well. When Samuel heard this request, he was distraught. And that's because Israel was never intended to be a monarchy under the leadership of a king, but a theocracy under the leadership of God. Samuel reminded the tribal leaders that if only they would cleanse themselves from idolatry and other wicked ways and seek and serve God with their whole heart, that he would fight their battles. He would deliver them from Nahash and the Philistines and all other threats, just as he had delivered them from Pharaoh in Egypt. Well, the tribal leaders were having none of it. They demanded that Samuel give them a king. So Samuel went to the Lord and prayed about it. God said, if they're set on having a king, give them a king. By the way, that's a principle we see played out throughout the scriptures. God will grant just about any request that we have, good, bad, or ugly. So we need to be very careful what we wish for. God led Samuel to choose and anoint a young man named Saul to be king over Israel. He was a young man, head and shoulders taller than anybody else in the nation. He looked like a natural leader. And soon after he was anointed as king, he did indeed gather all the tribes together. They formed a united army. They went to the rescue of the city of Jabesh Gilead. They fought Nahash and the Ammonites in battle and won a tremendous victory. Jabesh Gilead was saved. Well, the whole nation was ecstatic with joy. They gathered in one place for a celebration. There they affirmed that Saul was indeed their king, and they congratulated themselves on their great wisdom in demanding that they get a king. But their celebration was short-lived. As Samuel and God had warned them, Saul soon became an egotistical and self-serving tyrant. When a young shepherd boy named David killed the great Philistine giant Goliath in battle, the women of Israel composed and sang a song that included these words, Saul has slain his thousands, but David his tens of thousands. When Saul heard that song, he was driven into a jealous rage from which he never recovered. Well, most of 1 Samuel continues that tragic cycle and theme. But among this story of human power and corruption, we see some remarkable vignettes of God's faithfulness to the people of Israel. First, there's the young woman Hannah, who desperately wanted to have a child. On one occasion, she was weeping and crying and praying before the Lord so passionately that the priest thought she was drunk. When he found out that no, she was just praying for a child, he asked that God would grant her request, and God did. He gave her a son the young man Samuel, who became the spiritual leader of Israel throughout his lifetime. Then there's the young man Jonathan, the son of Saul, but nothing like him. He became the best friend of David. On one occasion, he said to his armor bearer, "You see that Philistine garrison up there? Let's go attack them, because if God is for us, he can save by many or by few." And then, of course, there is the young shepherd boy, David, who fought the giant Goliath and won. As he faced Goliath across that valley with the armies of the Philistines behind Goliath and the armies of Israel behind David, David shouted out to Goliath, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today, all will see that God does not deliver by sword or spear, but by his great power, and God will deliver all of you into our hands." Indeed, God did. Hey, if you find these videos to be helpful, would you do me a favor? Like, comment, and share. Help me get the word out. Blessings.